What's up, everybody? This is Lance. I am the host of the Health and Real Estate Podcast. And today's guest is super cool and interesting. Her name is Erica Camp. And I met her at the St. Louis Veg Fest this year. I went there. She was one of the presenters. And I caught the second half of the presentation. And it was super cool and interesting. I think everyone needs to know about this. So she is the founder and HENthusiast of Second-Hen'd, which is an awesome name, cool little play on name. And they rescue spent hens, and they have a beautiful, awesome mission. So I'll let her tell you all about that. So, Erica, how did all this start?
So it started with a little girl who was an only child and had no siblings to play with, who lived on a farm, and she was told the chickens are your responsibility. So on this farm, the chickens were not meant to be my friends. They were there to be food, both meat and eggs. And of course, spending all this time with them instead of products, they became my friends and I spent every waking moment with these chickens. So I
Mhm.
realized they have personalities, they have feelings, likes and dislikes, they have favorite people, they have best friends. They're just like cats or dogs, right? So I, time and time again, would beg for their lives and be told no. And was kind of messed up, but I did not, from a very young age, I associated meat with the animal. I didn't just see like a big juicy steak or burger. I actually would physically get sick because I would see that animal that I had just spent time with. But my parents, coming from a bit of a poor background as well, if it was on your plate, you ate it. And so these friends of mine, their time would come. They would be killed a couple hours later. Here I'm being forced to eat my friends. And so
Mhm.
that was kind of a traumatic experience for me as a child. Um, but I mean, I rolled with it. I did what I had to do. And I'd say what really, really changed me was probably my first experience with Chiquita. So she was a little meat chicken. She was the only one that my dad actually let me keep for me. She was mine. Nobody was allowed to touch her. I gave her a name. And she was just amazing. Like, she potty trained herself. Like, no joke. She would sleep with me every night. And if she had to go to the bathroom in the middle of the night, she would get up. She would go to her little spot where she went to the bathroom. And then she'd come back and snuggle in. She followed me everywhere. I mean, she was just by my side constantly and just my best friend. And that was when I really started to kind of, associate, well, she's not different than these other ones or the other ones that I'm taking care of, and
Mhm.
as I spent more and more time with them, like I said, I realized all these things. So I just I fell in love with chickens. And then when I turned 18, I joined the military. I couldn't take my chickens with me, but I traveled the world and I knew I wanted chickens again, but it wasn't until we moved to St. Louis and got our first home that I was finally allowed to get my chickens. And I had been waiting and waiting and waiting, but that was kind of it. When I came back into it, I just they were what I needed, and they helped me deal with a bunch of the stuff that was still kind of lingering from my time in the military. And that's really where it all started. And then I just kept trying to find more and more ways to share the benefits of chickens with others, because if they could help me that much, I figured there's so many other people they could help as well.
Definitely. I love that story. What all did the chickens help you with? Like, what were you struggling with, and what did the chicken therapy help with?
It's just anxiety is a big one, right? Like, constantly my brain is just go, 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 go. If there's anything bad that's going to happen or that could happen, my brain is thinking of all the ways that that's possible, even if there's like nothing wrong. I have PTSD from stuff in the military. I have depression. I mean, I feel like that's kind of everyone has some level of
Mhm.
it, whether it's genetic, seasonal, or due to life experiences. Um, and I mean, so for example, right? I can be in my backyard with my chickens. I bust out the hammock, I set it up, I lay down, and every single one of my chickens jumps up on top of me.
Oh,
And they just like blanket me. They just want to be with me, right? They see the hammock come out, they get excited. And I mean, come on, right? Like that's just and they start purring. A lot of people don't know this about
mhm.
chickens, but they purr when they're happy and they're content. So I mean, I have like a pile of chickens on me purring. How is that not therapeutic? Like come on.
Pretty impossible to be sad.
Yeah. And they're so soft and you can just I mean, you can just pet them. Like I said, and they're big personalities. You just sit in your backyard. They're very, very comical. The things they do, like it's like watching the Three Stooges sometimes. Like, it's chicken TV. You just sit in your backyard with them, and that's all you need.
I love it. Yeah, tell us more about like chickens and their personalities and kind of their capabilities and like intelligence because most people just see chickens as food. And actually,
Mhm.
most people don't even see chickens at all, like when they're alive. They just
Right.
see them at the
Well,
supermarket.
I mean, and I think a lot of people too, it's easier for them to think, "Oh, well, chickens are dumb," right? Chickens are dumb animals, so it's okay to eat them. And if I tell myself they're dumb and I don't try and spend any time with them, I don't feel bad about eating them. Like it makes it okay. But if you actually spend time with them, I mean, there are ones that are more like cats in terms of that you have to wait until they decide that it's
Mhm.
okay for you to pet them and touch them. They want that love, but only when they say it's okay. And then you have ones that are more like dogs, where they like Chiquita. They want to be around you all the time. Like they want to be right by your side. They get anxiety if you leave. Like it's it's a wide range. And I'm not gonna promise that every single chicken is gonna be like this, because again, it's like cats and dogs, right? Like, even the best cat or a cat you think, "Oh, well, I raised it since it was a kitten, it's gonna be the nicest cat ever." It might just still end up being a jerk because that's the personality that it was destined to be, or it'll be super scared. No matter what you do, it's gonna be more on edge. But the majority of them, I say, are gonna fall within that cat or dog range. And I with my flock, personally, more of them are like dogs, where they wanna be around you all the time. They're very food motivated, like cats and dogs. So, once they figure out what a treat is and that you have treats, I mean, you can get them to do anything for treats. That's it. Um they they have, like, flock dynamics. So, they don't do well alone. So, like dogs, they and cats, they usually do well with companions. There
Mhm.
are some chickens that do well with a flock of other birds. There are some that don't really get along, so they do better with people. It depends, but they have vastly different personalities. They have preferences. So a lot of people will say, since chickens have way fewer taste buds than us, they can't taste this or they can't taste that. They don't prefer sweet over salty, or they don't like bitter. That is not true. I'm here to tell you, chickens have preferences. I have girls that like sweets, and I have girls that like the healthy stuff, the vegetables. They'll choose vegetables over sweets, and other ones will choose the sweets over the vegetables. There are ones that won't eat food if it's a certain color, so some will not eat it if it's green. Like, it's insane. Like, they're very, very unique individuals.
Definitely. Yeah, my mom, she has chickens. So I kind of grew up with some backyard chickens. So I got to experience that. And now that I'm thinking back about it, maybe that's what also helped me on my vegan journey is
Yeah.
seeing chickens, you know, outside and like, holding them and things like that. So, when is that how you kind of made your vegan connection was with growing up on the farm with the chickens?
Yes. So I don't want to get like too graphic or anything, but that was kind of the thing is so I would spend all this time with them. I would bond. And then when their time would come, I would beg. And I'm talking like try and sell my soul. Please, no, don't kill them. We don't need to do this. And then a couple hours later, and a lot of times I did see the actual process. Like my aunt was usually the one that took them in back and did everything. And just seeing all of that, knowing that, like I said, that was just my friend that was alive. And now that happened. And then in a few hours, I'm being forced to eat it and stew. Like that just and I struggled with that a lot because like I said, even before that, and my son is the same way, and I have not like, I guess, pushed any of my beliefs on him. But from like a super young age, he's like we would be out to dinner with friends and they eat meat and they would have a burger or something. And he was like, "Well, what's that?" And I'd be like, "Oh, it's a burger. You want to try some?" And he's like, "No, what animal is that?" "Oh,
Mm,
it's a cow." And he's like, "No, I like cows. Cows are nice." So like, and then he would get really upset. So I was the same way, but I guess you could just say my parents were a bit rougher around the edges. Like they didn't necessarily coddle me. It was kind of like, ah, toughen up, get over it. Like this is just the way life is. This is how we
mhm,
do things here. But I I couldn't. So I learned to, I guess, kind of conceal it and keep it all in. But I mean, I really struggled seeing that time and time again, bonding with these animals, seeing them get killed, having to eat them. And so, I mean, it really wasn't until I was older and kind of out on my own where I had the ability to say, no, I don't want to eat certain things. Like in the military, I didn't have a choice. You had to eat what they gave you. But
mhm.
once I got out of the military, I would say that's when my vegan journey really started. But before then, when I did have to eat meat, I would always, it was the bare minimum, just like, okay, you told me I had to eat it, that's it. And I would get physically sick. Like I hated it every time. But finally, when I was out and done with all that, that's when I went like full vegan mode.
Definitely, yeah, and there is a huge disconnect with, like, farmed animals because you know how we feel with chickens now is like before I was vegan and made the connection, I literally just saw chicken sandwich as food. But
Hmm.
now I literally see like the individual and like I
Right.
know what they had to go through, like the process in that. But like non-vegans, if those were their dogs or cats, they would never eat those. But
Yep.
it's because they have they're physically with dogs or cats or see them so they can experience that connection and their personalities and all that. Where with all the other most people don't have interactions with farmed animals. So there is a huge disconnect. That's why I think your mission and your nonprofit, Second-Hen'd, is super cool. So tell us kind of like how did that story start?
So, as I mentioned, I got back into chickens. We got our first house. And this would have been back in 2016. Um my husband and I, we were a bit late bloomers, you could say. While we're in the military, we joined the military right out of high school. So we didn't like go to college first. And like I one of the reasons I joined the military was because they promised me they would pay for college, and that was something I wanted to do. But the whole time I was in, I never had an opportunity to go. So I had to wait. And again, that was another thing, I had to wait until I was out. And so after we were both out of the military, we went to school and we got our first house. And I was like, okay, my graduation gift to myself, I'm going to get some chickens, right? I found out we could have them. I got everything and I was so pumped. And I was like, okay, I'm going to get some chicks, some cute little fluffy chicks, right? Like, keep in mind, growing up on the farm, the mama hens were always the ones that raised the chicks. I was more hands off until the chicks were older, right? And then that's when I would play with them. Oh boy. I did not realize just how much work and how fragile chicks are. Okay. Like it was just bad experience after bad experience after bad experience. And then, like what happens with a lot of people, I ended up with a boy when I wasn't allowed to have a boy here in the city. They don't allow roosters. And then I was stuck with, well, what do I do? We can't have him in the city. So I had to find a sanctuary for him to go to, which is really hard because a lot of them are completely full up because this happens all the time. And of course, that was my son's favorite chicken. So he was like crushed. So I had all this bad luck. And I was just kind of like, you know what? No, I didn't realize, like, because the mama hens did everything. I just didn't realize how much this was. I was like, I know I still want my chickens, but I don't want to do it like this. And so I
Mhm.
had told myself, all right, I'm determined I want a little flock of chickens. Like it's going to happen. But I want older birds that are past that vulnerable stage. And you know what? I want to save some from a bad situation. That's what it is. Cause people dump them. Like I heard all sorts of stories. And so I started doing research because I mean, I was willing to travel. Like I would have drove states over like for hours or days if I had to. I was willing to travel if I could find a place that would give me birds that came from a bad situation. And I searched and I searched and I searched and I couldn't find anything. But during my research, I found out about what they do that's very, very common over in the UK. And that is they take these spent hens from commercial egg farms and then they rehome them. And when I came across that, I was like it just clicked. I was like, no, this is it. This is what I want to do. So I pivoted my research and started trying to find any place that did that here in the US. Again, I was willing to travel. Like I wanted some of these chickens and I couldn't find anything. So I was like, okay, you know what? I gathered a few friends and was like, I think we had homes for probably between 15 and 20. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to just start calling around and seeing if we can get a farmer to let us have just like 20 birds, right? Like that between me and some friends. That's it. And I still to this day, I don't really know who said what or what happened, but somehow word got out that I was doing this. And all of a sudden, I started getting bombarded with messages of, hey, can you put me on your list? I want some of these birds. And at one point, I
Oh,
had homes for like over 2,000 chickens, right?
wow.
And I was like, okay, so maybe people actually want to do this, right? And so I had to kind of pause and say, because this was back in 2016. So I had to pause and be like, okay, this is getting to be kind of bigger than what I had planned for. If I'm gonna do this, I think like we got to do it right, you know? So that's when I started the whole process of, okay, let's become an actual nonprofit, right? Like let's, so that we can, if people want to donate to help us, like it's legit. We're not just some rando people asking for money to save chickens. Like you can get a tax donation receipt, you know, like we got
Mhm.
to do this the right way. And so, for 2 years, I worked on finding an egg producer that would work with us. It took me 2 years. And I finally found one, and we got our first batch of birds in 2018. And that was just the best feeling. And I j I don't know how to explain it other than if there's ever anything in my life that I could say I truly feel like I was meant for this or to do this thing, it is saving these chickens and rehoming them. Like and I think that's part of the therapeutic benefit for me as well is I feel like I really feel like this is the thing that I was born to do. And I went all
Mm.
those years lost, you know, not knowing and I tried all these things and then I just kind of happened into this and it's like all these pieces were there throughout my life and then they came together and forced me into doing this thing but all for good reason. And then everything just clicked and was like, yeah, this is it. I want to dedicate my time and effort to saving these birds and raising awareness and teaching people about how amazing chickens are.
That's amazing. I love it. And that's pretty wild how word got out and yet
Yeah.
potentially 2,000 homes lined up of
Yeah.
people that would
And
take
like the
in these
news
rescue.
contacted me and was like, "Hey, can we do a story on what you're trying to do?" So there's like this old news story out there before anything was ever official of me just being like, "Yeah, I want to try and figure out how to save these chickens," like, and so I look back on that and I'm like, "Man, I mean, I was such a baby, but look how far we've come. I mean, now we've saved and rehomed like 1,065 birds. Like,
Mhm.
I mean, I know it's not the most because honestly, if we had the resources, we had a place where we could keep like 5,000 birds at a time, the egg producer would give us those birds. The issue
Mhm.
is we don't have the resources. And so for us, it really is more about quality over quantity. Like we don't want to be like, "Oh, our goal isn't to save as many as possible." We wish that we could. Yes. But the reality is even if we could save 10,000, you need to be able to find good homes for all those 10,000,
Yeah.
right? Like cuz we don't just want to give them to anybody. And we need more resources because when you have more birds, there's more potential issues, which means more vet bills and more money.
Mhm.
So we try and be smart about the way that we do things. And we say, well, we can handle this many at a time. We can ensure that all of them get the proper care that we can handle. And they get 100% of what we have to give. And we feel like that's better than, okay, well, we took 2,000, but they got the bare minimum. They didn't go to good homes. Like that's just not how we want to do things. But that's why we continue trying to get our name out there and trying to raise awareness and raise funds because our dream is a plot of land where we could build a permanent location that would open up our opportunities for volunteers to come help us more. We could keep more birds at a time. It just that's our big holdup, but that's a goal for the future. Um, but no, if you're gonna do something, you just gotta do
Mm.
it right and you gotta do it smart.
Yeah, and you gotta start somewhere. So
And that's
I
the
love
thing. Like, if I
Mhm.
would have just waited until we had all those things, we wouldn't
Mm,
have saved any birds yet. But
definitely.
we evaluated what can we handle, right? Okay, well, this is a way to do it smart, and we actually get to be able to do it. We don't have to wait because then we never would have done anything.
Definitely. And so you get these chickens from a farm. You have like connections with certain farms.
Mhm.
And do they just surrender them over to you after they're spent? And
Yes.
then could you also go into what a
Sure.
spent chicken is?
So, okay, I'll start with the terminology of spent hens. So, if you notice, we always put the term spent in quotes, and that's because it's a very misleading label, and we want people to ask us, "Well, hey, why is that in quotes?" Well, let me tell you. So, the egg producers, they don't hide the practice of what they do, where they get rid of these birds, right? But it's all in the wording. So what they say is, well, we're getting rid of these birds because their production has declined or they're not laying eggs. That's not a lie. So there's people don't question it. That makes people think, "Oh, so these must be like super old chickens then. They're not laying eggs anymore. So yeah, just get rid of them." But what's actually happening is these birds are only between 1 to 2 years old, which is very, very young because chickens can live 10 plus years and they can lay eggs for like 5 to 7, if not more. Like I have chickens that are like 9.5 and still laying eggs. Um, but they hit their first molt. So, like other birds, chickens have to molt every year. And what molting means is that's where they lose all of their feathers and they grow new ones back. Now, in nature, right, if they were not in a factory farmed environment, in nature, your backyard chickens or your other birdies, what would happen is the loss of daylight. So, in the fall, when daylight hours are less, that would trigger their bodies to stop laying eggs. and it would say, oh, stop laying eggs. It's time to molt. Winter's coming. You need all brand new feathers before the super cold gets here. So
Mm,
they would stop laying eggs, they would molt, and then just in time for the winter, they would have all brand new feathers, which would keep them safe throughout the winter. And then in the spring, when it starts getting daylight hours for longer, that would tell their bodies to start laying again. And that's also a natural break that their body needs, right? Because otherwise it would be like a woman having baby after baby after baby after baby. Her body needs a break. Eventually, she's going to start having problems if she keeps having baby after baby without any break in between. So that natural break throughout the winter helps prevent issues in the long term with their reproductive system. So that's what would happen in nature because they need at least 12 hours of light to tell their body to produce eggs. So in the factory farm environment, though, where the lights are on 24/7 to tell them produce egg, 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 egg.
mhm,
So it's kind of like women with periods, right? When you get a bunch of them together, if one woman starts, they're going to start trying to sync up.
mhm.
So that's why that range is between 1 and 2 years. Once that first chicken finally is like, nope, nope, my body's got to molt, like it has to happen, then
Then the
they all
whole
start
flock.
they all start going. So then that's when the egg producers are like, okay, because that whole process usually takes about 2 to 3 months. So if these chickens aren't laying or they're laying much fewer eggs for 2 to 3 months, they're not making as much money. So it's cheaper for them to get rid of these birds and then bring in a younger batch that's laying egg after egg after egg. And it's just a cycle that repeats, right? And so, especially like as a woman, right? Like I feel very strongly about like, oh, so you're just using me for my body. And then when I'm not useful to you anymore, you just get rid of
Mm,
me. And like, so I feel that very strongly. That's something that I relate to with these birds. Like, and even being in the military, right? Like, oh, when you're broken or you're not useful to us anymore, we just get rid of you. So from those two fronts, I very much can associate with these chickens and kind of bond bond over that. Like I'm like, I've been there, I've done that, I know how it feels.
yep.
So yeah, so they get rid of them because they're molting and they don't want to wait for them to start laying again. That's really
When you
the quick and dirty of it.
when you say they get rid of them because they're
Hmm.
spent by
Hmm.
when the flock molts, what does that mean?
That means killed. So they send them off to slaughter. And then here's the worst part, they don't use them for anything. They don't use them for dog food or cat food or Campbell's soup. They just dispose of them. That could be they incinerate them or they leave them out to rot. And then sometimes they will take the remains and they will actually mix that into like the soil and the compost fertilizer stuff that they sell at like Lowe's or Home Depot. They don't do it anymore, but if you read the label closely on that garden soil that you get, they would talk about the fertilizer in there that it came from like farmed animal remains. Now they
Mm,
make it a little harder for you to track down the ingredients, but they're still doing that. So as a vegan, that's another thing to be mindful of if you're going to the store and buying soil, because a lot of people don't think that, right? Like you go to the store to buy soil because you love gardening, and there's potential like animal
mm,
remains in there. But that's not I guess most common. It's more common for them to just dispose of them. Now in the UK, they do things a little different, right? So they have a lot of the chickens that they keep for laying are what are called dual purpose. So they're a heftier breed of bird that are meant to be for meat. So they hit that about 2 year mark, they send them off to slaughter, and then they use them for meat. Over there, it's a totally different thing. But here, the birds that they use, they are specifically for egg laying. And if you see this breed of bird, even if you try to fatten them up, it is not happening. They're skin and
mm.
bone, like they're just very petite. So again, and it's also, it would cost them more money to try and send these birds off to be processed, right? Like it's just cheaper to take them off, kill them, and dispose of them. It's all about money.
definitely. So they would be if they surrender these hens to you, it's probably
It's
cheaper for
saving them
them to
money.
do that than to send them off to
Yep.
slaughter, 'cause I'm sure they have to pay to
Yep.
send them
They have to pay someone to come in and gather the birds, to transport them, to kill them, process, and dispose of them. So the more we can take, that's actually saving them money because that's fewer that they have to pay for that to happen to. And it's
Mm,
kind of sad and it sucks. And that was one of the reasons that it took me um 2 years to find an egg producer that would work with us. So they either were convinced that I was undercover PETA and I was trying to get in to to get footage and expose them. And then the other thing was they wanted money for the birds. And I was very from the very beginning, I
yep.
was like, nope, I will not pay for these birds because that money will just go right back into the operation. No, you need to donate them to us. You give us these birds, like that's it. And we've been seeing with some of the smaller um, egg producers, we've been seeing a rise because they're starting to kind of catch wind that this is, I guess,
Legit.
it's preying on people's they prey on people's emotions, right? For people
Mhm.
wanting to do a better thing. So we've been seeing more and more of these smaller producers go on like Craigslist or Facebook Marketplace and they're putting ads to try and get some last minute cash off of their birds before they send them off, right? Because like I said, it saves
Mhm.
money if they have fewer to transport and process.
Yep.
So they're putting ads on Craigslist, right? And they're selling these birds for like $30 each as like established layers. And they're like, hey, if you don't come buy these birds, they're going to get killed. So people feel bad. They know the history and they go and they buy these birds. But now all that's doing is these people are taking that money and they're turning around. They're going to go buy more chickens, right? And since chicken math is a thing, right? The way I like to explain it, so just to keep numbers as simple as possible, let's say for each let's just go $10 per bird, right? If these farmers are selling their laying hens for $10 each, for each one bird that they sell, they're going to turn around with that $10 and they're going to probably get, let's just say, I mean, $2 a chick is a little bit on the pricier side, especially if they're buying in bulk like they are, which are thousands at
Mhm.
a time. They're probably getting a discount and getting around, they're probably only paying about $1 a chick, if not less. So for each $10 bird, it will either turn around and buy 5 to 10 chicks, whether it's $2 or $1, right? But let's say it's $1. So for each one bird, they're turning around and buying 10 chicks. Out of those 10 chicks, you're probably going to have 5 that end up being boys. And since boys are not needed in the egg industry, day one, they're going to get thrown in a shredder. Dead.
Mhm.
Done. Then those other 5, those girls are going to go on to live a pretty crappy life, right? Let's be real. They're probably not going to end up being saved by an organization like ours. They're going to go live in a cage or on a farm, whatever, going to be used for their bodies. And then when they're 1 to 2 years old, they're sent off to slaughter. That's it. So for each one bird that you buy from one of these people on Craigslist, you're contributing to that. 10 more chicks, 5 which will die on day one, 5 that go on to live a life of for each one bird. And so we've been working really hard to try and kind of educate people about that as well and warn them like, hey, I know it hurts. Like it hurts. You want to save these chickens. We get it. We get it. But just keep in mind that if you go that route, you're only putting that money right back into their system. Instead, come to someone like us, adopt through secondhand, right? Like we're not paying for these birds.
Mhm.
They're given to us by the egg producer. Yes, there's adoption fees, but that is only because we keep them in quarantine and we have to pay to feed them and take care of them while we have them. And that's the other thing too, is these birds that people are getting off of Craigslist, you have no clue what their background is. You don't know what they've been tested for. Have they been vaccinated? How are they kept? And if you already have chickens, you're putting your existing chickens at risk, right? Like, and there's also people that are going and buying the chickens for super cheap like that. Then they're doing what's called like flipping them. So they go to these farmers, they buy them super cheap, then they turn around and they try and sell them to people for like $30 or more. And again, that's not safe either. You don't know the background.
Mhm.
You got to be smart about things. So we try and warn people, but I mean, they're going to do what they're going to do. You can only say so much, but we try our best.
Definitely. And can you very briefly
Yeah.
and describe kind of the egg laying industry, like what because that was something I didn't know before I went vegan, like what happens to the male chicks on day one. So if you could very briefly just kind of describe the whole industry, and then what are some of the conditions like that these hens are living in
Yeah.
without getting too graphic.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
So,
so depending on the size of the egg producer, right? You have smaller operations, larger operations. Sometimes they're large enough where they have their own hatcheries. If they're not, then they buy from a hatchery. And so if they have their own hatcheries, day one, they because they sex the chicks after they're hatched, right? And the boys are usually they're thrown alive in a shredder or they're suffocated, and then the girls are kept. Same thing will happen at a hatchery if they buy from a hatchery, right? So it really doesn't matter. The boys are still going to be dying on day one because they're not what people want,
Mhm.
whether it's the big egg producers or people with backyard chickens. So the girls will then go on to live. It could really depend. The majority of them are caged. So they have the size of about an 8 by 10 piece of paper where they live in these cages. There's different caging systems. You have enriched cages, which that has like a little area where they can go to lay their eggs, gives them a little bit more space, but there are still a whole bunch of chickens in a cage together. Then you have the smaller cages, which are called battery cages, and that's where the term battery hen comes from. It's actually describing the type of caging system. It doesn't mean that they were battered hens, right? Like that's it's just the caging system. Um, and then those are much smaller. So that's where they're crammed together. They don't have any privacy when they're laying eggs. They just kind of lay the egg right there while they're standing. It rolls down onto a conveyor belt, takes the egg, and they can't even like stretch their wings or their legs. And you'll see more picking on each other.
Mhm.
So they cut the beaks usually day one. They cut their beaks so that because they know they're going to be in close quarters together, there's more risk of them picking each other's feathers or just fighting, and that minimizes the injuries. Um, and then, I mean, if one of them gets sick or injured, what they do a lot of these places is they'll have people that kind of walk the rows and check the cages daily, and they grab any dead birds out or any that aren't doing well, and they kind of like take care of them on the spot, meaning kill them. And then they just put them in wheelbarrows and go dispose of them. Some places have a veterinarian that will euthanize them humanely. um, it really just depends. And then you have other types of situations where there's cage free, where instead they just live in barns, but they don't have any access really to outdoors. You have free range, where they live in a barn, but they have kind of a small access to outside. And that's if the weather's permitting, they're allowed to go outside. Then you have pasture raised, where they're outside and they're complete like free ranging. Um, but across the board, the same thing is going to happen between 1 to 2 years, because even the free ranging pasture raised girls, they're not going to be making as much money for the egg producer when they hit that first molt. So I mean, at least they lived a better life up until they were killed, but the same thing is still going to happen to them. Now, that's not to say that there aren't some places trying to do things better. And I always give credit where credit is due. So, any small things or anything you're doing to try and make something better, I always commend that, because you could just not care. But those are
Mhm.
the people that are listening and are trying to do things a better way, I really appreciate and want to give them their kudos.
Definitely. And yeah, I don't know the exact percentage, but I know the overwhelming majority are like factory farms.
Yep,
I know
that's
for
contagious.
meat, yeah, I know for meat, it's like 90%, 99% of all meat, I think, comes from factory farms. I'm
Mhm.
not sure if that's similar with eggs. Is that is
So,
No.
to give you some numbers, um, in just the US alone, and this is not including meat birds, this is only egg-laying hens. So, the statistics for that are over 300 million a year are killed as a result of this practice where they get rid of spent
Mm,
hens. That's just the US, only egg-laying hens, not meat birds. Each year, each
that's
year,
wow.
over 300 million hens. So
Hmm.
very, very wasteful.
Definitely. And another thing I learned is most of these factory farms, like the conditions are so bad that a small percentage of them don't even live to make it to be slaughtered because the
Yeah.
conditions are so bad. So,
Well,
like you were
and
saying earlier, there's just like dead chickens in cages, and they
yep.
get them out and wheelbarrow them into dumpsters. I
Um,
didn't even know you could do like I didn't know that would be legal. Like it's
Well, I
crazy.
mean, it's probably not, but again, the people that are making these laws, they're not out there
Hmm.
checking and enforcing anything because the mindset is, well, they're going to be killed anyway, so what do we care? Like
Hmm.
um I've seen stuff where when they're gathering the birds and getting them ready to send them off to slaughter, I mean, they've got broken wings, broken legs. I've even seen like where a leg was ripped off. Like they're handling them that rough. But again, their mindset is, well, they're about to die. So, and we got to get them all because there's so many and they have to get them through. Now,
Hmm.
I will say, so the egg producer that we work with has been amazing. And they have even like made changes to things. And we have a great relationship. And again, I give them credit. And a lot of people are like, "Oh, but you should hate them, you know? You guys should be enemies. What they're doing is so wrong." And that's not true at all. Like I actually would call them friends. Like
Hmm.
they're normal people, right? They come from a background where growing up this was all they knew, right? Like and we've actually taught them some things about chickens. Like we have a really good relationship and they are trying to do things better. And one of the ways that that is completely obvious is they're choosing repeatedly to work with us, right? Like they, at any time they could be like, no, but they
Yep.
actually see the benefit in what we're doing and they think we're doing a good thing. And I tell you right now, the majority of the people that are working in that industry, I don't think they're bad. They don't like what happens, but they just don't feel like there's any other way because it
Hmm.
hasn't been proposed to them. Like, you know, so they need a job. They have families to provide for. I get it. I get it. I grew up on a farm. Like I understand. But now that we're showing them, but there is a better way, you know, they've latched onto that. And that's why, like I said, why they keep working with us.
Definitely. So, yes, let's talk about that better way because that is a huge problem. And you all have come up with an amazing solution. So, you get you basically rescue these spent hens. And then your whole mission and goal is to try to rehome them so they can live out the rest of their life, happy and free.
Yep. As chickens, living as chickens are supposed to. They get
Yes,
to
with
do all the
love,
chickeny
cuddles,
things.
and all that.
Yep. Yep.
Awesome. So, tell us more about that.
Yeah. So once we get the chickens, and we place them in their homes, some of the firsts that they get to experience are first sunlight, right? Before that, they'd
Mhm.
never been able to stretch or feel sunlight. They hadn't had access to grass. They couldn't dust bathe. They couldn't go searching for bugs, you know, like even just one of the most rewarding things is seeing one of these girls the first time the sun hits their body. It's just they go down and their wings stretch out, their legs start. It's like we joke about solar panel activated, right? Like they got to recharge. And they just and then they close their eyes and they look so content and they're just soaking in all that probably much needed vitamin D. And like there's no better feeling than seeing that look on their face. And it's like they just know like I got it so good now, right?
Mhm,
And at first they are and that's what I think is part of the therapeutic aspect for people. So for adopters, when you first get these birds, they're absolutely terrified of everything, right? Like and they don't really have their personalities yet. So as we care for them, you get to see their personalities start to develop. You see them experience all of their firsts. And even in just like a month's time, they look like totally different chickens. And you can sit there and you can say, "You know what? That's because of me. I I contributed to this chicken living its best life." And you just there's just for me, for me personally, there's nothing more rewarding than that. Like and I know there's a lot of people like, "Oh, but they're just chickens. Why do you care?"
mhm,
Because I do. And to me, they're so much more than just chickens. They're everything to me.
definitely. That's so beautiful. Thank you so much. And then, so if someone was interested in rescuing and fostering, not fostering, but interested in saving these chickens, what does that process look like for like a homeowner?
So so really, first and foremost, you got to make sure you can have chickens where you live, right? Because it's going to differ by state, it's going to differ by city. There's ordinances, certain laws trump others, and you got to figure out which one goes. If you live in an HOA, it's a little trickier, not impossible, but there may be more
Hmm.
hoops you have to jump through. But if you find out you can have chickens and you'd like to adopt from us, and we have had adopters come from all over. I think the farthest has been upstate New York. Um, we even had someone fly up from like southern Arkansas. She flew up. She adopted 3 chickens. She rented a car and she drove all the way back. Like that's dedication, right? So like if you want chickens, we will help you get some of these girls. It doesn't matter where you are. We will help make it happen if it's something that you have been dreaming of doing because that was my thing. This is something I wanted to do so bad and I couldn't find any place that did it here. So that's why I started something myself and that's why I want to make it available to anyone who wants it. Um but so if you find out you can have chickens and you want to adopt some of these spent hens from us, we have a contact form on our website. So you go, you fill out the contact form, that'll come to us, and that will start the process. We may have more questions. And then from there, we kind of tell you the timeline that we're looking at when we're thinking we're going to get another batch of birds. Will that work for you? Do you need to wait till a future date? It doesn't lock you into anything, but it just gets you put on our list so that we can notify you when we have another batch coming in. Um, and yeah, I mean, we make sure you have all the information and knowledge that you need before the birds even arrive. And we want it to be a good experience for the adopter as well as the chickens.
Hmm.
Everyone, our big thing is if you're going to adopt from us, we want to make sure you feel 100% prepared for what's about to come before the birds even arrive because then it's not a good experience for you or the birds, right? We don't want to set anyone or any bird up for failure. So we're very, very big on educating people what to on what to expect before the birds arrive. We won't leave anyone hanging, and even after you have the birds, we continue to be there to support. If you have questions, if you need help with anything, we walk you through everything.
Awesome. I love that. So I remember during that presentation you gave at Veg Fest, you were talking about like all of the environmental benefits of like chickens or backyard hens. So could you
Yes.
go into some of those?
Yeah. I mean, so they're good pest control. Um, so some of the bugs that are causing problems, right? We got ticks, which is what is that? Lyme disease. Ticks are a
Mhm.
thing. They cause Lyme disease. Any of the mosquitoes, God, they spread all sorts of stuff, but mosquitoes, they cut back on that. Flies, gnats, any of these pesky bugs that, I mean, I don't want to say they don't have any benefit because they're there to be
Yeah.
food for other animals, but we don't like having them around. They cut down on that. Their poop is amazing fertilizer. So, like what I do personally is I let my chickens go and play in the garden beds to prepare them. So they go in, they scratch around, they poop, they scratch. So they're like tilling and getting everything ready for me to plant my stuff, right? So, and they love it. They get out all the bad bugs that you don't want in the soil. I mean, and they take their job very seriously, very, very seriously. They're there to help. If you do any composting, they will gladly work the compost piles for you. And again, you can take that and put it in with your soil. Um, Depending on what you do with their eggs, even if you feed them back to the chickens, you can keep the shells, and those are good for your gardens. Um, they if you have an issue with mice, now I think they're cute, so I have to look away. But they will eat mice. So if you have a problem with mice, the chickens are on it.
I did
Um
not know that.
it is crazy. They
Mhm.
eat them whole, and then they always, like, finish with the tail like a spaghetti noodle. It's the wildest thing, but I will give them credit for this. They're not like cats. They don't play with them.
Mhm.
They have a mission. When they get that mouse, they kill it very quickly, and then they eat it. They're not like, it's not suffering. That their goal is just, boom, get it, be done. So I at least give them credit for that. Like I said, I can't watch it. I know nature happens, but
Yep.
I don't have to see it.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
don't want to.
Same.
Um, but so yeah, they're amazing for pest control. And I think what you're referring to is the study that I was talking about in Belgium, right? Where they offered chickens to anyone in Belgium that wanted them, like 3 chickens per household. And a bunch of people said, yes, we want chickens. Um, and I don't remember because I don't have it in front of me, but essentially the numbers came out to like, I think it was, they came up with homes for chickens, like for 300 families or something like that. And they found out that, doing the math in the US, if like 1 in 3 households had chickens, we could, like, it would reduce so much from the landfill if you fed them your scraps. Now they need a full diet, but if you also
Mhm.
gave them your food scraps, it would keep so much waste out of the landfill, but also there would be no need for an egg industry, right?
Mhm.
And that's my favorite part. If if only like 1 in 3 households had chickens here in the US. I mean, that's doable, right?
That sounds very doable.
I
Yes.
mean, and they get to be your companions, and you don't even have to have,
Mhm.
like, a whole bunch of them. But
And I Yeah, and I was gonna say, I think most people, whether they're vegan or not, like,
Mhm.
if they do eat eggs, I'm sure they would want the eggs to be
Oh,
coming from a
totally.
source that it's not, there is no cruelty or anything like that, so
Yeah, we have a ton of adopters who aren't vegan, and it is super, super important to them. They don't wanna buy eggs from the store.
Mhm.
And it's not even just a matter of like, well, I wanna know where my food comes from, right? Like, they take it a step further and they say, "Well, yeah, I wanna know where my food comes from, but I also wanna know that the animals that produce this food lived an amazing life and were loved," right?
Definitely.
And they also say, for them, even though they still eat their chickens' eggs, first and foremost, the chickens are pets. So if at
Mhm.
any point laying eggs is hazardous to their chicken's health, they take their chicken to the vet and they get it taken care of. Because again, like I said, first and foremost, it's a pet. So the eggs are just an extra, and they don't need the eggs. They eat them because they're there. But they want that experience where, yeah, I know where my food comes from, but I want to ensure that the animal that's producing it lives an amazing life and is loved and cared for, and they know they're a pet.
Definitely. I think it's an amazing solution for
Mhm.
the big problem of the egg industry. And then also it gives people the opportunity to actually like have chickens as a pet and make those connections and see their personalities and hopefully
Yeah.
have them lay on you and purr and
So,
yeah.
can I share a really cool story?
Yes.
Okay. So, my grandma, she passed away a couple years ago, and back in her day, like, she used to get so angry if you ever used the word organic, because back in her day, everything was organic, right?
Yes.
Like, they didn't have special labels, they raised their own food. So, she grew up on a farm where they had chickens. And she had kind of a similar story where there was this chicken that was born, it was deformed. He had a messed up leg, and she named him Gimpy, and her dad
Oh,
wanted to kill him. But she was like, "No, no, let me keep him. I'll take care of him. He's mine." So her dad finally was like, "Okay, all right, I won't touch Gimpy. Gimpy's yours." And he was a little white chicken. And she absolutely loved him. She adored him. She took care of him. He was her pet.
well
And
done.
so she ended up in hospice. And while she was in hospice, she asked me, "Hey, will you bring," I think Blossom, you met Blossom, the little white hen that I had with me. She asked me to
Yes.
bring Blossom, and I checked with the nursing home. They said, "Sure, you can bring her." I brought her in, and every day she just laid right on her chest, and my grandma would just pet her. And it brought her so much comfort in her last days, like having this little chick, and Blossom knew the assignment. She just
Mhm.
stayed there for as long as my grandma wanted to pet her. And that was all she needed because it was so nostalgic for her. It reminded her of a time when things were easier. She was a happy kid. She had her pet, her beloved pet with her, as her body was preparing for that transition. I mean, here's this food animal, this chicken, especially with the background that she had that was meant to be trash, right?
Mhm.
Bringing this woman comfort before she passes. Like how
That's
beautiful is
very
that,
beautiful and poetic. Yes.
right? So,
Awesome.
chickens are for everybody. You can say, "Well, I don't like them," but I promise you, I can find a way to make chickens for you,
I love it. So the goal is to try to get 1 in 3 households to have
right?
a rescued backyard hen.
Hopefully
Uh,
some of these girls, because then that is even a bigger impact.
yes. And so if people are interested, it depends on their state or city's law.
Mhm.
Because so we're in St. Louis. So St. Louis City, it's allowed and different. Does it vary by the counties here? Like, does each county have their own restriction?
So here's the thing. I don't know how much you've been following the news. So originally, like if this would have been about a month ago, I would have told you that last year the law changed across across the board statewide. There was a law that was passed and approved by the governor that said even if you live in an HOA or a town that previously said you cannot have chickens, now you can. Right?
Ooh.
So, they had a thing saying they can still put certain, um like, they can still make rules. So they can say, "Well, you can only have this many. You still can't have roosters, or you have to provide each bird this much space," but they can no longer tell you you can't have them. So, people started going out and getting all these chickens. They were excited, everything changed, right? And we were like, "Oh, this is gonna be great for us." And then, as was expected, one of these HOAs that was not happy about the decision lawyered up. They fought it. And a judge just recently ruled that, okay, maybe now if you live in an HOA, we're gonna revisit this. No, you can't just have chickens.
Mhm.
So the state is planning on appealing that. And if that is not successful, then what they're going to do is they're going to make the chicken law its own thing. Because what happened is they kind of, like all these politicians do, and what always happens is they put a whole bunch of stuff in together. And so if someone doesn't like one of the things in there, then it's like, well, no, they go after everything. And that's what had happened. So if their appeal doesn't work out the way that they want for the state of Missouri, then what they're going to do is they're going to just do a chicken law on its own. That's the goal, is what it seems like. And then hopefully that seems to have a lot of support and a lot of backing. So if that goes through, then if you're in the state of Missouri, you should be good. Even if you live in an HOA. Now, I'm I'm really big. If you live in an HOA and you know they don't want chickens, or if you have neighbors that don't like chickens, I just try and work with them, right? Like before you get the chickens, have conversations with your neighbors. Get an idea of what they're thinking. Now, yeah, in some cases they can't tell you that you're not allowed to have the chickens, but if for whatever reason they really, really, really don't like chickens, try and be respectful of that and slowly work on them a bit
Mhm.
before you get the chickens, right? Because I'm going to be honest, we see it time and time again. People get chickens, their neighbors don't like it, and their neighbors try and make life hell for them. So, like, just it's one of those things that I like to warn people about, that it's part of that preparation before you ever get the birds. Like, make sure, yeah, they can't tell you no, but just make sure they're okay with it. And then if they're not, at least you know, so you can be prepared when you get the chickens that they might try and cause problems. Just, again, be smart.
Mhm.
Prepare and be smart.
Definitely. And then if people are in other states or areas, they could still reach out, and
Yeah.
if they can't figure out the law on their own, I'm sure you could help guide them if
Yep.
something was
Yes. Yes.
awesome. So I also live in California part-time, Los Angeles. Do you know what it's like? The laws are with that out there?
So,
No.
the only thing I really know about California that I've been hearing in a lot of my chicken circles, um, and I think it might actually be LA, is they're trying to do it's like rooster bans. So it's gotten so bad that roosters are being dumped left and right because people were allowed to have them, and now because of them trying to change the laws and stuff, people are freaking out or they're getting in trouble, and then they're just dumping them instead of trying to find homes. But the problem is they can't find homes for them because they're not allowed in a lot of places, or the shelters are full, or the sanctuaries are full. They're at capacity. And so now these people who had these roosters as pets for years are trying to figure out, well, what do I do? So I've heard about a lot of controversy with that. And I guess they're trying to say that it's to cut back on cockfighting. But when you really pick apart the law, it seems like that's just kind of their cover. That's really not what it is. It seems like it's someone who just doesn't like roosters and is using that as an excuse, which
Mhm.
happens with a lot of things. So that's messed up, and they're trying to get laws reversed and changed. And I hope it goes through because roosters are amazing. Like
Mhm.
roosters, it, I would argue, have it worse than the hens because, like I said, they're not they're not needed in the egg laying industry. They're not needed for people that want to keep backyard flocks for eggs. So day one, they get killed, and then the ones that slip through the system, right, because they missex them, look what happens. Oh, shoot, we can't have roosters, so let me just dump them because I don't know what to do. And I don't want
Yeah.
to take time to figure out a solution to the problem that I created. So, and they also have because I think too people have this idea of roosters, especially with cockfighting and the whole macho. People think that all of them are aggressive and they're mean, and it's like, well, no. A lot of what you're referencing is probably they were kept in a way to be like that because when
Mhm.
they're being trained to cockfight, they purposefully put them in situations where that will make them more aggressive. But then there's also the fact that roosters, like anything else, they go through a hormonal phase, right? And they're figuring stuff out. Their hormones are raging, and they're like trying to say, "Well, I'm big man on campus. I'm head guy." And if you just wait for those hormones for them to go through that stage, those hormones will work themselves out. And there's some of the like sweetest things. And if I could have a rooster, I totally would because they would sacrifice their life to take care of their hens. Like they're amazing protectors. They deserve a
Awesome.
chance too.
Definitely. Well, awesome. What all ways can people get involved with secondhand?
So,
So
I mean, right
right
now,
now,
I would say the big, obviously, fundraising is our biggest need because we want to get a plot of land so that we can build a permanent, like we want a permanent location, something that
Mhm.
build, we can build on, and then people could come and volunteer, and they could help us out. But that costs money. And right now, the way it goes is when we get a batch of birds, like we go through all of our money. So, like, we save enough, we get a batch of birds, we go through the money, we start back out at zero. So, we don't have like big amounts of money coming in for us to put aside to save for a plot of land. So, I would say our biggest need is money so that we can buy a plot of land and build a permanent situation. Um, as far as volunteering goes, we don't really have a ton of opportunities for that because we don't have that permanent location. On occasion, we do have like if people want to come help out at events, that's an option. Um but we don't really have a bunch of those things.
Mhm.
If people, we could really use help with grant writing. If people have any resources um or the knowledge to do grant writing, that could help us acquire bigger chunks of money to put toward that land. We don't have any of that knowledge or experience ourselves, and it's one of those fields that's very particular. If you want to be successful in it, you got to do it right. um we could use help, any people that have like legal background, helping us figure out stuff to apply for, you know, that would be helpful. um Anyone who just wants to get involved, if you have ideas for somewhere that we should be, right? Do you think we should be at this event? Do you think we should be speaking at this place? Right? Invite us out. We'll come. Like, we'll come spread the word. We're happy to do so. That's a lot of what we do is just small things, talk to people, teach them about chickens. We bring chickens with us so that they can interact with them and see how amazing they are. That's the biggest thing, and I know it seems so dumb, but really, the small things like following us on social media, sharing our content, interacting with our content, that's free, it's easy, it helps the algorithm, right? Because since we're a nonprofit, we have to have a business account, and what that means is for Meta, if we want our stuff to be seen, they want us to pay for it. But we don't have money to pay for advertising to constantly have our
Mhm.
stuff out there. So the way around that is with the algorithm, having people share and interact with our content that boosts it and puts it out there. So even if you can't donate, like just share our stuff constantly, interact if you like it, comment. And then of course donations, right? There are plenty of ways to donate. If you're not comfortable with giving money, um we totally understand. But if you're a person that's like, well, I want to know that my money is going towards something, we do have there's a course that we really, really want on grant writing, but it's like $500
Mhm.
and we can't afford that. But it has very, very, very important information that we could use to help us out. Something like that. You could buy us the course, and then that would set us up for success. And that would help us hopefully win some grants and then save so many more chickens in the future.
Awesome. I love that you gave like very exact stuff that
Yeah. Yeah.
like would help with. And I will share all the social media links, the website and all that so people to check it out. That'll be in the show notes. So
Okay.
everyone, if you can't donate or do anything, at least like, follow, share, engage with the comment or engage with the content. And also, if someone's not ready to fully adopt right now, are there foster opportunities?
That is totally something that we would be open to.
Okay.
Especially because with each batch of birds, we usually get at least one or two that are a bit more special needs or at least temporarily need some extra care. and we do not adopt them out until they get the all clear from our veterinarian. So like if they have an injury or they needed some sort of surgery or they're on medication for something, we could use people to take care of those birds while they're getting better before they go to their new homes. That is totally something that we could use. And also, like, if you just really love chickens, but like you live in an apartment or you're not allowed to have them, I mean, just reach out. I can set something up where you can like we can hang out and I can bring chickens and we can have like a picnic in the park or something and you can just to your heart's content love on some chickens. I can make that happen for you.
Yes, I love that. All good stuff. This has been amazing. And seriously, everyone, go like, subscribe. I'll put all the information in there. So, is there anything else you want to touch on before we kind of wrap it up and get to the joke offs?
Um, I mean, I don't think so. I feel like we covered most of it, but of course I'll probably remember something once we're done. That's what always happens.
Well, yeah, and if anyone has any questions, I recommend y'all just reach out to her directly. Just shoot her a DM on Instagram.
Yeah.
Well, cool. All right. Do you have a joke ready?
Okay, do these have to be like fully clean jokes or can they be like not like pervy, but can they be a little like silly? What's the rules
Yeah,
on that? Okay.
do whatever.
Okay.
I mean,
Then
my mom does watch this, so as long as it's not too bad.
I mean, I think she'll chuckle. I think she'll chuckle at the ones I'm thinking of. Okay. So do we just go back and forth until someone can't think of
Yeah,
a funny
well,
joke?
you just tell yours, then I'll tell mine.
Gosh. Okay. This is a lot of pressure because I got to do this perfect for it to land. Okay. What color is a fart underwater?
No idea.
Blue? I
Blue?
know. It's blue. It's all in the delivery. It's so dumb, but it's all in the delivery.
That was good. All right. Oh, that was a good one. I've never heard that one. That was a
Okay.
good one.
I'm like,
Okay.
yay.
So I got a chicken joke.
Okay.
So you probably never heard this before, but
Okay.
why did the chicken cross the road?
I mean, to get to the other side. There we go. There we go.
So we
I
both
love
had
it.
the delivery.
Yep. Yep. Because I love it. See, and that's one that's fun for people to say because they're gonna walk around
Right?
because. Yep. Yep.
Well, awesome. Both of our jokes we had to nail the tone of it. Yeah.
Yes.
Well, awesome. This was an absolute blast. I learned a lot and just thank you. Like, I'm super grateful there's people like you out there helping animals, coming up with solutions. So, thank you so much. Keep up the good fight. And I'm very excited to have this episode drop.
Woohoo, me too.
All
Thank you for
right.
having me.
Thanks, everybody. Like and subscribe. And that is a wrap.
One,